Hi guys, welcome back to the Frazzled Sociologist. In this video I wanted to tackle another one of my frequently asked questions. So a lot of you tend to ask me about the 20-mark research methods question structure. And I get it, because the question is asking an awful lot of you in what is quite a short amount of time, like a really limited number of paragraphs. So it can be really difficult to remember exactly what you need to do and when. So for the research methods question, especially in the education paper, we immediately need to be thinking about PET. Okay, so that's your practical, your ethical, and your theoretical issues. Okay, you immediately need to be thinking about your practical, ethical, and theoretical issues. But not only that, each paragraph needs to also reference the link to the education system. So in the question, it will ask you maybe about student achievement, or it will ask about behaviour. It will ask about a very specific part of education. Okay, and because it's asking about a very specific part of education, you also need to be specific. You also need to be talking about the same areas. You need to be talking about the practical, ethical, and theoretical issues in terms of studying whatever the specific link is to education. There will be different practical, ethical, and theoretical issues studying different parts of the education system, and that is why you need to be very specific. In each paragraph, you also need to have the strengths and weaknesses of studying using practical, ethical, or theoretical issues, that part of education. So you have the positives, what are the strengths of collecting data this way? You'll have the negatives, what are the weaknesses of collecting data this way? And specifically, you need to mention throughout, what is the impact on data going to be like? Okay. You need to be aiming for 3 or 4 paragraphs. Now, 3 is really easy because it's really easy to do 1 paragraph on practical, 1 paragraph on ethical, and 1 paragraph on theoretical. And I do suggest you do it that way, just because it means you've covered all your bases in the question. You know you've covered practical, ethical, and theoretical issues. Your 4th paragraph can be your favourite. So whichever you find easier to talk about, whether that's practical, ethical, or theoretical, I suggest you do that again here. For me, I usually recommend you do ethical, because all studies have ethical issues. It doesn't matter what the study is, all studies will have blatant ethical issues. In terms of the education paper, if it's not been brought up already, you could absolutely bring up harm, because you are working with small, vulnerable people. Therefore, you have to be more aware of the harm you may cause as a researcher and the damage your research might do. Even if you're not talking about anything necessarily particularly sensitive, research with children is really quite delicate. So I always sort of recommend you do 1 of each, and then the 4th one be something you are particularly strong with, or ethical issues. Okay? You need to be looking at doing this whole structure 3 or 4 times over. Each paragraph needs to be really specific in what the practical, ethical, or theoretical issue is, specifically linked to the education context. So why are they specific practical, ethical, or theoretical issues in relation to what it is you're studying? And there will be positives and negatives of doing that. And they need to be in the same paragraph, because they need to be a direct evaluation of each other. So there will be practical strengths in terms of studying, let's say, achievement. Okay, so let's say the practical strength of studying achievement is that you always know where your participants are going to be, because they're kept to a strict schedule, they're kept to school times. So that's a practical thing you could tick off. You could discuss the fact that you get to see their achievement firsthand. You know where they're going to be. They're in school times. That's a positive. And the impact of your data is it's supposed to therefore be more valid. Okay? You should know that what you are looking for is what you're seeing. You would then need to come up with a very direct criticism of that. What is a direct criticism of the practical accessibility? You could turn around and say that they are still stuck to a schedule. You could turn around and say that actually students who maybe struggle with their achievement are more likely to be excluded or expelled, and therefore are not going to be available to you at the time in which you commit this research, because they may not be in the building. They might be at home. That's going to have practical access issues, because you are going to struggle to get access to those kids if they're not on school time. So the practical, ethical, theoretical are like little umbrella terms. They're the ones that you need to be thinking about, but you then need to choose more specific practical, ethical, or theoretical issues like time, like cost, like harm, or confidentiality, or validity, or generalizability. Okay, and we'll look at practical, ethical, and theoretical issues in more details in another video. But you need to be thinking to yourself, right, I need a practical, ethical, theoretical paragraph. These are the things I could actually talk about. This is how they link to the education asked in the question. This is the strengths and weaknesses of applying that to that specific research context. Okay, and like I said, there will be different practical, ethical, and theoretical issues or strengths that pop up depending on the education context. Also, please remember, please remember that just because something is referred to as an issue, a practical, ethical, or theoretical issue, doesn't mean it's necessarily talking negatively, okay? There's no guarantee. You don't have to be just referring to it as a bad thing, okay? Please remember, you need the strengths as much as you need the negatives, even when a question asks about issues, okay? I hope that helps. See you next time.